Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Xander Bennett, and I'm one of the communications officers here at Integrity Systems Company, and I'll be your facilitator for tonight. A few housekeeping notes before we kick things off. Just so you're aware, today's webinar will be recorded, and the recording will be sent out to you and will also be available on our YouTube channel. There's also a Q&A box at the bottom of your screen, so please feel free to put your questions in there. We have a team of people on hand to answer any questions you might have. Though if we don't get to your questions tonight, we'll make sure it's covered in the post-webinar resources that we send out in the coming week. So today we'll be going over some of the fundamentals of livestock ownership in relation to ISC's two key integrity programs, the Livestock Production Insurance Program, or LPA, and the National Livestock Identification System, or NLIS. It's important to remember that whether you've got 3 or 3,000 head, we've all got a role to play in adhering to these two key programs and protecting Australia's red meat industry. But before I ramble on for too long there, let's get on to tonight's agenda. So tonight you'll be hearing from myself a bit about MLA and Integrity Systems Company and a bit about the importance of the red meat integrity system in Australia. I'll be going over the basic requirements of livestock ownership under Australia's red meat integrity system. This includes property identification codes, or PICs, what they are, why you need one, where to get one, animal identification, so ear tags and stock, which tags to use and where to get them. We'll also spend some time on the new laws coming in from Jan 1, 2025 around the mandatory tagging of newborn kids and lambs with electronic identification devices, or EIDs. I'll also be diving a bit deeper into the NLIS and LPA programs and exactly what your requirements and obligations are as livestock owners under each of those two programs. And then from there, you'll hear from our in-house LPA and NLIS guru, George Basher. George is our IC operations analyst, and he'll be taking us through the NLIS, showing us how to get an account before diving into a live demonstration of completing a livestock property-to-property transfer in the NLIS database, as well as some other core functions and processes that you might normally utilize in the system. Following this, we'll hear from Ash Wildridge from New South Wales DPI, who will be sharing what New South Wales requirements are for hobby farmers. And then to wrap things up, you'll get to hear from me again with a few key integrity takeaways from tonight's webinar, as well as addressing any outstanding questions anyone might have if we get the time at the end. So I know that sounds like a bit, but as I mentioned, we'll be sharing through a boatload of resources after the webinar, and the recording will be made available to all registrants. So firstly, a bit about MLA and IC. Meat and Livestock Australia, it's Australia's red meat industry body working in partnership with the red meat industry and the Australian government to deliver marketing, research and development products and services to beef, sheep and goat producers. And so Integrity Systems Company, it exists as a wholly owned subsidiary of MLA, and we're responsible for delivering the red meat industry's livestock identification, traceability and quality assurance systems. So that is the LPA program, the NLIS, as well as the National Vendor Declaration, or NVD, which we'll touch on a bit later. ISC was established in 2017 with the chief task of managing these red meat integrity systems programs to provide continued access to global markets and ensuring Australian red meat is safe to eat, it's of high quality and fully traceable. So on this slide, we've got the structure of Australia's red meat industry bodies, peak industry councils and state farming organisations. You can see below there we've got ISC as a subsidiary of MLA, where both ISC and MLA report to the Red Meat Peak Industry Councils. So that's Alpha for lot feeders, Cattle Australia, the Goat Industry Council or GICA, and Sheep Producers Australia. Together, MLA and ISC are service providers to the red meat industry. So now a bit more of a dive into our programs. As mentioned earlier, IC operates two key programs which underpin livestock traceability and food safety on farm. So firstly, the National Livestock Identification System, or NLIS, is Australia's system for the identification and traceability of cattle, sheep, and goats. Under the NLIS system, all animals are identified with an accredited NLIS tag or device from their property of birth. And as animals are bought, sold, and moved along the supply chain, each movement is recorded on the NLIS database. Using this information, the NLIS is able to provide a life history of an animal's movements. The system, important to note, the system is mandatory for owners of livestock, regardless of whether you have 3 or 3,000 head, and it's underpinned by state and territory legislation. This system enhances Australia's ability to track livestock during disease and food safety incidents. The other key program that IC manages is the Livestock Production Assurance Program, that's LPA. It's Australia's on-farm assurance program, which underpins market access for Australian red meat. If you're planning to sell your animals for food into the supply chain, then you'll need an LPA accreditation. If not, and you're planning to keep your livestock as pets or don't expect they'll be leaving your property at any point, then you may not need an LPA accreditation. But we'll touch on that a bit later on. Additionally, we have the LPA NVD or ENVD, which is a legal document that communicates food safety and treatment status of every animal as they move through the supply chain between properties. And it's the tick of assurance that assures the receiver that the livestock being moved have been cared for in line with the LPA program requirements. But for now, we'll just cover, sorry, got a bit lost there. So this slide, it provides a pretty good summary of the key requirements as livestock owners under Australia's red meat integrity system. We'll cover each of these items in a bit more depth later on, but we can just kind of cover them briefly now. So firstly, number one, you'll need to get a PIC from your state or territory Department of Ag. That's a must. If you've got any livestock, any number of livestock, you need a PIC. Number two, if you ever plan on moving livestock off your property, you'll need to have them properly tagged with the correct NLIS approved device before they leave your property. And as I mentioned, we'll go over this in a bit more detail later on. Number three, you'll need an NLIS account to complete property-to-property livestock transfers and to record the status of your livestock. There's a number of functions that you use within the NLIS, and as I said, we'll go over that a bit later, and George will take us through that in his live demonstration. And numbers 4 and 5 there, optional depending on your intention with the livestock, but you'll need to accredit with the Livestock Production Assurance Program and utilise NVDs or ENVDs when moving livestock. If you're not LPA accredited or don't plan on becoming LPA accredited, you still must provide official movement documentation, such as state-based weigh bills, to accompany your livestock when they're being moved, if you're moving them. And you can contact your state departments of ag for more information on this. So, property identification codes, or PICs. They are the 8-character codes allocated to your property by your respective state or territory department. Your PIC represents the location of where your livestock are kept, and it's the PIC number rather than the property that forms the basis of all integrity systems programs, as it's the PIC that the NLIS relies on to trace livestock through the supply chain in the event of an emergency disease outbreak. Regulators are able to assign a status to a PIC to identify it as an infected property and help prevent further spread of the disease. Very important. You must have a PIC to have an NLIS account. You must have a PIC to tags and devices issued to specific PICs, and the PIC number is actually printed on the outside of the device as part of the NLIS ID number, which we'll go over in the following slides. Um, it's important to remember once again that regardless of whether you've got 3 or 3,000 animals on your property, everyone has to have a property identification code. Right, now moving on to the next slide. So when looking at tagging your livestock, it's important to remember that any livestock must be properly identified with an NLIS accredited tag or device before leaving your property. To order tags and devices, you should contact your state or territory Department of Ag or directly. That is, depending on which state or territory you live in. If you're unsure, it's best just to reach out to your state or territory Department of Ag. You should make sure you've got your PIC ready. This is when you're going to order tags. You should make sure you've got your PIC ready and ensure you choose an NLIS approved device specific to your species of livestock. And if you can, it's best also to choose a tag or device that suits your climate and environment as well. It's worth noting that sheep devices can only be used on sheep, goat devices can only be used on goats, and of course cattle devices can only be used on cattle. Devices, when you order them, they are species specific. When ordering tags or devices for goats, but they can also be coloured by their specific year of birth. Alternatively, a post-breeder tag can be applied if a device falls out or breaks and the animal is no longer on its PIC of birth. So post-breeder tags are always coloured orange for cattle and pink for sheep and goats. Now, looking a little closer at individual EIDs that we use to tag our livestock, there are numbers associated. There's the NLIS ID, which is the number printed on the outside of the tag, visible to the eye, and the RFID, which is the electronic number coded within the tag, which can only be identified through the use of a wand or a scanner. Both numbers are linked to the device in the NLIS database and can typically be used interchangeably when interacting with the database, depending on what you're doing. You can see here that an NLIS ID is made up of a few different numbers, the first being your property identification code, followed by the manufacturer's code, which changes depending on your supplier. There's the species code, remembering that tags are species specific, and so this code will change depending on which species you've ordered the tags for, as well as whether or not you've selected a breeder tag or a post-breeder tag. The remaining numbers highlight the year the tag was purchased and a serial number specific to that tag or device. Now, new laws are coming into place nationally from Jan 1, 2025. These laws have been introduced by all states and territories as part of Australia's defence against emergency animal disease outbreaks be individually electronically tagged for a number of years. And so basically what's happening now is sheep and goats will now be joining cattle in this requirement to be individually electronically tagged. Having all livestock individually tagged makes traceability a lot faster in the event of a food safety issue or a disease outbreak. Moving to EID, it'll allow for strengthened biosecurity and traceability, and it enables a more efficient, effective, and targeted response to a disease outbreak. Jan 1, 2025, all sheep and goats born will be required to be tagged with an NLIS approved individual electronic identification device before leaving their property. I should specify there too, all newborn sheep and goats from Jan 1, 2025 will require to be individually tagged. Cool. So we touched on LPA accreditation earlier, just shifting gears a little, and whether or not you'll require accreditation. So LPA accreditation, it's a great way to ensure you have options when it comes to selling your livestock. Nearly all abattoirs and sale yards across the country won't accept livestock that haven't come from an LPA accredited property. In addition, the LPA program is a great way of keeping up to date with best practice on biosecurity and animal welfare. However, if you do intend on selling livestock that may end up as food, LPA accreditation is the best way to assure food safety and ensure your stock can be accepted at the sale yards. So if we just work through this decision tree to determine whether or not you'll need LPA accreditation. So first things first, are you planning to sell animals into the red meat supply chain? So if so, you'll need LPA accreditation. Alternatively, are your livestock being kept as pets or for your own consumption? In which case you may not need LPA accreditation. That is, of course, unless you want the option to sell them in the future, or you sell them and your buyer wants an LPA NVD, or perhaps just if you want to accredit, are all valid reasons. But important to think this through when considering whether or not you want to become LPA accredited. Moving on. So for those interested, sorry, just jumping over to the next slide. So for those interested in pursuing LPA accreditation, this slide outlines the 7 requirements of the program. While participation in the program is voluntary, producers who choose to become LPA accredited commit to carrying out on-farm practices to support the integrity of Australian red meat, and so have access to LPA NVDs, which are generally required by the supply chain to accept animals. LPA accreditation, it'll set you back about $90. It will set you back $90 over a 2-year period. And signing up for the program will mean you may be subjected to an audit where you will need to have kept and provide proof of your records, including animal treatments, drenching certificates, etc. All the requirements are outlined on the IC website, and the LPA learning takes you through each requirement. Sorry, one second. Yes, where was I? Right, so you can complete the LPA learning as many times as you like for free through your online LPA account, as well as any of your colleagues, staff, or family who might also be involved with the management and ownership of your livestock. So that's a run through of the key programs. I'll now pass over to George, who's going to demonstrate how to access the NLIS and run a livestock property to property transfer which are all critical processes of the integrity system that we need to understand. And regardless of how many livestock you've got on hand, these are important processes to be familiar with. And just a reminder that this demonstration coming up will be recorded and made available after the webinar. Take it away, George.
Thank you, Xander. I noticed there was a few comments coming in about Xander's voice come cutting in and out. So I'll do the same and I'll turn my video off. So today I'm going to go through NLIS, go over a few issues, some of the questions that have been raised, and I'll talk you through the NLIS system. So to share my screen. This is the homepage of NLIS, so www.nlis.com.au. And from here, we need to log in or set up a new account if you haven't got an account already. So we'll click here and we'll go via My MLA. So you can go directly into NLIS for now, but that's going to change shortly. And when everyone needs to go through to NLIS via My MLA. So I've already created my MLA account. So click in, it says my password. It's pretty easy to remember because it's just an email address, standard sort of login for most people's accounts. And you can set up a dashboard if you have anything you're interested in, particular markets, you can set them up. You see slaughter figures, the Eastern Young Cattle Indicator. So if you're interested in some stats and figures and what markets are doing, you can add them in. Today, we'll just go straight through and say, we're going to go into our NLIS account. You can also add your LPA, and Xander mentioned about LPA, every 2 years, you pay for your accreditation. Other ones here, they're probably not applicable to those small holdings or hobby farms. So I'll click on to continue to NLIS. And you can have more than one account. So if you're looking after your property, maybe your friends or your neighbor's property, you can have multiple accounts all linked to the one. So I'm going to log into my producer account. That's my producer account here. Log in. Takes me straight to my producer account. Now, from here, there's a help tools, something you need to look into. So help. Click on help tools. And I've got cattle listed, and I'll change that. So sheep mobs, cattle. These are all the user guides available for cattle. So what these device numbers mean, click on that, it'll open it up. How to run reports. So you go through this, I'm not going to open any of these up. There's a fair few of them. So a whole range of reports for you to use and to help you guide through transferring and running of reports. Click back home. Today we're going to do a transfer of some cattle and some sheep. I've only got sheep mobs because I'm in New South Wales. I haven't had to do it yet. So the first thing we need to do is, from your home page, I want to change my types of livestock right at the top. There we go. Now I want to add sheep individual. Might as well add the lot. Got some goats. I might have on there 1 or 2 goats. And we do have South American camelids. And I dare say most of you know what they are, but they're alpacas and llamas. So we do have them in our database. So we continue. And now I have more than one species I can work with. Today we're going to do a transfer of some cattle, and we're going to do some sheep as well. So we'll click on cattle first. Another thing to keep in mind also is this is my email address. Don't send me any stuff because I don't always look at this, but keep your details up to date. Click on change and you can modify email address so we can inform you of these sorts of webinars, other sessions we may do, put you on a monthly bulletin. You can always opt out. We put you on a monthly bulletin notifying you of any changes of what's going on. So it's going to hide this header up here. There's a button called hide header. Click on that. This gives us more real estate, easier to look at. So we're going to go to cattle today. I want to. Now this is what things we just changed. Edit your details, change the livestock. Under here are things we're going to do to the database. That is changes we're going to make. And then we'll go through this later, but some reports we can run. So for the purpose of today, we're going to transfer some livestock, and it's a legal obligation in Australia, every state and territory, regardless of where you are, whether you have, as Xander said, 3 head or 3,000. I usually say 1 or 1 million, makes no difference. Livestock is livestock, and we don't discriminate whether you have 1 or many. So it's your obligation to transfer. So you click on livestock moved onto my property. You click go. We have 2 options. 9 times out of 10, it's easier just to select this top one, and that's what we'll do today. Type in the details. 5 things you need to include. Now I've got a list of tags here. Keep them. And I'll go through that in a second. So there's 5 things you need to do. You need to tell us what animal or animals you're moving. These are the animals, or the tags on the animals is. Where have they come from? And if you receive an NVD, a paper declaration, you know where you bought them from. Always ask for the PIC. You must enter in their property code, which is the PIC, and it goes against your property code. So these are my test accounts. I'll go back to these. These are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different tag numbers. You notice that the first one has letters and the last one has letters. That's the printed number on the outside of the tag. Most small holdings will just buy 1 animal or 2 animals, and they can easily, using your camera, take a photo of the tag and write down the number on the outside. There's 16 numbers and letters, and Zan has probably done most of my job already, but he said that the outside of the tag, the property ID card or the PIC is printed. This is the PIC that put the tag in. So this is what the outside of the tag looks like. The number printed on the outside, printed on the outside, and these are the microchip numbers. You can't see them. You need to use the same type of scanner you see at the vets with the cats and dogs. Usually a handheld wand, it's called. It's a stick, usually about 60 centimeters long, and you can use that. You don't need to buy one. You can just eyeball the tag. Everyone's got a phone now, a high-resolution phone on their. Has got a phone and a camera, high-resolution camera. So just use that to get the numbers. Typically, or particularly if you are only buying 1 or 2 animals. If you're buying 20, 30 animals every week, you need to assess that yourself. Now, part of LPA, if you are part of LPA, you need to you need to have an NVD. We'll just make up an NVD number. So the 5 fields, E-tag numbers, where they've come from, where they've come to, that's me, my property, it's my legal obligation. And waybill number, it can be an NVD, LPA NVD number, a waybill number, a travelling stock statement, all those things, and when they moved. We'll say they moved today. We hit continue. This has given us final confirmation you're about to record this movement. They're coming from this property, they're going to this property. That's the waybill number. That's the date. And these are the tag numbers, or the cattle in this case. We hit send. That's now going to send it to the database. Now this is the live rural production database, the ones that you'll be using. Gives us a receipt number or an upload number. And this upload ID tells us that in this file, this is what we did. So if you are buying animals from someone else and they say, look, we'll do it for you, always ask them for this upload ID. You can just write that down and that's your confirmation. You can check later and I'll show you how to check, but this is your confirmation number. So we've done the upload and we can view what we've done today, view my transaction history. You hit continue. And this is the file, that's the number we just did. There's the time we did it, 7:30 just now. It's got an error. So we'll click on error, and it tells us this device is already on the property. So this animal was already on QDZZ 3333. We can't move it again because it's already there. So, and I put these in so we can identify, issues. We can show you what they look like. It comes up complete. It means it comes up like this one, complete. It says no errors occurred. They've all gone through. So a couple of different areas, and I've used different numbers so you can see them. That's the RFID, and these are the NLOS IDs. This is warning us that this animal, this tag, was not on the property we said it was. We said take it from this property, but it wasn't there. It was on another property. So the person I bought this animal from hadn't done the transfer onto their PIC. So we're letting you know that you told me you bought it from this property, property A, but we had it registered to property X, the database. Nothing more you can do about it. You've done this. What you've done here is met your obligation, and we now know that these animals are on your property. These cattle are on your property. So we'll close this window, go back up to the home. And now we'll go run a report, view devices on my property. We click go. Now we want to see what's been transferred on. Last week they've been moved onto my property. Today, no results. Oh, I made a mistake somewhere. I'll get to it in a second. There they are. Sorry, I've used it since that long. I still have problems using it. But there's the NVD sewer number that we used, the date just now. And although there were 6, only 2 were transferred on in this upload because we had error with those 2 tags. So that's a very simple process of doing a transfer and checking. If someone tells you, I've done the transfer for you, you need to run this report that says livestock transferred onto property, and we hit go. We fix the date range, today's date. So if someone tells you that's what we bought last week, this is what's moved on since the 9th to the 14th. If someone tells you, yep, I've moved it for you, you can log in and check yourself. So the next bit, very similar. This time we're going to move sheep or goats or alpacas. So this time we'll go into what they call sheep individual. Now you notice that this is expanded. It has different functions. We're going to use this one. Livestock moved onto my property. Sheep, goats, South American camelids. Click on this one. So that's what we're moving on this time, not cattle. Exact same thing. We're going to type it in on the screen. Some tag numbers that I got before. Put them in there. So exact same thing. 2 I used electronically. These 3 I got my Samsung camera out, took a photo of them and typed them in. I'm moving them to here. I've come off this property. We use a different waybill number. This time we go 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now it's asking us for how many head. This is the difference. I mean, this is the big difference, that we now have 6 fields. The reason we have this is because we have 1, 2, 3, we have 5 tagged animals. Xander mentioned that newborn lambs in 2025 have to be identified. So if you buy some sheep in May 2025 and you buy 10 head, but only 5 of them have an E-tag because the other 5 were born about now. So November, December 2024, they don't need to be tagged. So what are you moving onto your property? You're moving 10 sheep, and 5 have tags in their ear. We'll hit continue. There's the 5. And it's telling us the number ahead is 10. So this is doing 2 transfers in one. It's doing what was always referred to as the mob-based movement. That is how many animals are moving, 10. Where they come from, where they going to, come from, QB, ZZ, going to there, that Weibull number, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we're moving 5 individual animals. We hit send. Again, I've put some tags in there just to show you. Again, we have an upload ID. Now we have 3 upload IDs. So this is the original upload ID with the 5 tags and the 10 head. So one file does both. That file is split up into 2 further files. That's the file with the, I always get this wrong way around, so either the 5 head, and this is the number of head equals 10. So we'll click on the same thing. What happened to this file? We'll check it out. View my transaction history. What have we done today? This is the file we just did. So it's the full file. It does both, and it's split it up into the mob-based movement and the manual with the manual file. The manual file is, these are the 5 tags. So the file is simply saying that this is the buyer, that was the date, the NVD serial number, that's where they came from, and the 5 tags. So that's the individual transfers. And then we have mob-based, which is in a different version, hard to read, but we have an error. So we go back to this error. It's saying this analyzed data is not registered in the database. And what I did was, there was 2 tags in there. This is the 9150. Have a look at the file. Number 151, 150. I put a 9 in there just to throw things out to say, well, I must have misread it. When I took the photo, it wasn't clear enough. So you upload the file, it'll tell you straight away if it worked or didn't work. In this case here, we had 1 tag with an issue only. All the others went through. This one didn't go through. Have you rectified? Look at the photo again or your handwriting. But this is a common problem we get when people read a tag visually. Close that down. So the 1 file gets uploaded, gets broken up into 2. Back home. Go back down to reports. Also transferred onto the property. Yep. With the combination of all of them. And one more report to show you, and the most used report in the system. If someone tells you their PIC number, or you need to find out whose PIC this belongs to, there's a report from the homepage called Search the PIC Register under Reports. Click Go, and we'll use the same PICs we've been using. So if you have a tag, the first 8 characters of the tag tells you who applied the tag, who bought the tag and put the animals in. Doesn't always mean that's where the animal is, because we've transferred it. If you get a message in the database saying this was on another PIC altogether, you can just type the PIC in, hit go, and it'll give you the results. So this is our most used report. It's called Search the PIC Register. And you can use it for a number of different reasons, but particularly someone tells you their name, where they are from, you can have some more information here to narrow the search down and find their PIC. Come back home. just to go over one more time, view devices. So view my transaction history. This is what we've done today. And these are all the functions, reports, transactions we've done, and their statuses. So this has come up now, search the PIC register. So we just ran this report. A lot of this doesn't mean much to people, but we ran a report for this PIC. So there's a record every time you use the system. And just before I sign off again, there were a couple of questions in the Q&A when I was answering some of the Q&A about orange tags or breeder tags, post-breeder tags. You leave a tag in for life. You buy animals, you leave the tags in for life. If a tag falls out and it was born on your farm, you put another breeder tag in. But if it wasn't born on your farm, you've bought it from somewhere else, you put a post-breeder tag in. You don't have to cut a tag out to put your own tag in. You leave the tag in, but if it falls out, replace it with your own tag. If it was born on your property, or replace it with a post-breeder tag, whether it's cattle or sheep, with a post-breeder tag if it was introduced onto your property. And that's it from me.
Awesome. Thanks, George. Great presentation as always. Apologies everyone for my audio earlier. I've had a bit of a play around with the internet at home, so hopefully everyone can hear me a bit better this time around. But coming up next, we've got Ash Wooldridge from New South Wales Department of Primary Industries, who'll be running us through some of New South Wales DPI's requirements in relation to owning livestock. Ash?
Thanks so much, Xander, and thanks for having me on. I do hope to cover as much as I can, but if you do have any questions, just a reminder to pop them in the Q&A panel, and we'll all get busy in answering those questions as best we can. So I'm from the New South Wales Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development. So our name was recently updated from the Department of Primary Industries. So we're now a little bit bigger with our name and what we cover. And I'm part of a team within that department that was put together specifically to help New South Wales prepare for the implementation of sheep and goat EID, and we work with everyone throughout the supply chain. We also have a dedicated local land services team that's helping us with the rollout of EID for sheep and goats. And these people are positioned all around the state to assist producers and sheep and goat owners directly with the EID questions. So for those of you that have dialed in today from New South Wales, I highly recommend that if you had any extra questions about sheep and goat EID after this webinar, to reach out to your local LLS office, and they'll be able to put you in touch with these people and they can help you with your questions. For those of you that have joined us from other states and territories, I would recommend that you contact your Department of Agricultural Primary Industries equivalent, and they'll generally have staff available as well to help you with information specific to your state. So the reason that Australia is changing to EID for sheep and goats now, so it's because all of our states and territories got together to make a national decision. They all agreed that in response to increasing livestock disease threats, particularly foot and mouth disease, that EID was just one of those things that's going to help strengthen our ability to respond to and to manage a disease if it enters the country. So this in turn helps to strengthen our livestock biosecurity. And biosecurity is essentially all about defending our properties and our livestock against pests and diseases, which EID helps to strengthen by allowing us to track individual animals really quickly and really accurately so that we can learn where a disease could have started from, where it came from, and also potentially where it spread to, right down to the individual animal level. So this then further feeds into our market access. where as a country that exports products, we do need to meet certain specifications to be able to sell our livestock and their products into different markets. And with EID, as a tool that helps boost our traceability, it lifts our ability to meet those specifications, which can have long-term benefits for Australia to enter new markets, which could increase the competitiveness and therefore the pricing of our sheep and goat products, helping our industries. So on that last slide, I mentioned that EID helps to strengthen our biosecurity. And this just has a bit of an example of just how much it helps with that. So an exercise took place in 2020 that compares how many sheep could have their last 30 days of residence tracked within a 24-hour period if they had either the current visual tags or the electronic tags. And this test found that 70% of sheep with the visual tags could be tracked within 24 hours, which had increased up to 99% of sheep being able to be tracked when they had EIDs. So in response to a biosecurity threat, this could mean that we can find the origin and the spread of the biosecurity threat quicker and more accurately, which in turn will cost us less. It'll impact fewer sheep and goat owners and helps us solve the problem and return back to market access quicker. So an all-round benefit. But this does rely on everyone that owns livestock is playing their role in biosecurity to help. So, for example, even if you're just borrowing a ram to join with your sheep temporarily, you really need to make sure that you record that ram in the analyzed database being moved onto your property. And then subsequently, when it goes back to the original owner, they'll need to record that too. And another simple thing when it comes to biosecurity, including something like a quarantine period for about 21 days for when you have new or returning livestock coming to your property. So the 21-day period just allows time for any signs of disease to show that you can then action. And it also allows weed seeds to move through the animal system. So if you have them in a confined area, you can then clean that up so you don't have different weed seeds spreading through your property. But if you're ever unsure about the health or biosecurity of your livestock on your property, local vets are generally very helpful when it comes to any unusual signs in stock that you want to check out. Or for New South Wales, local land services have a massive amount of information that can help with that as well. So Xander touched on this a little bit before, but I'll just prompt it up as a little bit of a refresher. So for EIDs, this is something that has been required in cattle for about 20 years. So the technology is the same. So for sheep and goats, the EID ear tags look very much the same as the current visual wraparound tags, with the key differences being that the EIDs will obviously have a microchip that's embedded in the tag, which the visual tags won't have. And also where the visual tag will have your PIC printed on it, the EID has the NLIS ID number printed on it instead. So again, as Xander mentioned before, that NLIS ID number does include your PIC and some additional codes and serial numbers. With the main one, again, to be aware of is the species code. Because if you put the wrong species tag in an animal and that animal ends up at a sale yard or an abattoir, they will have to replace that tag with a correct tag for that species, and you will generally be charged a fee for that having to happen. So it's really important to make sure you have the right tags in the right animals. And additionally, also if you do purchase the wrong species tags for your animals, that can also result in a weak point in our biosecurity system, because the database is going to think that's a cow. It doesn't matter what you tell it. It recognizes that device as a cow, but if you've put it in a sheep, the database would have absolutely no idea. So again, it's important to make sure you're aware of that. But back to the tag. So again, as Xander mentioned, so that analyze ID is unique for every individual animal. And the RFID number, which is that microchip number, is also unique for every individual animal. And either of those numbers can be used to do your analyze transfers. And just remembering when you're ordering your new ear tags with your EIDs, as it's becoming mandatory, make sure that they're analyze accredited, because non-analyze accredited EIDs are not a valid form of identification when you're moving livestock. And the easiest way to know it's analyze accredited is that little sort of Australia shaped logo that's printed on the tag. So in terms of when we need to start using EIDs, in all states except for Victoria, where it is already in place, so all lambs and all goat kids that are born from the 1st of January 2025 must have an analyze EID tag instead of a visual tag before they leave their property of birth. So at this same time for New South Wales, you'll also need to start doing the individual animal transfers for sheep and goats on the analyze database, which George kindly just walked us through. But for any older stock that still have the analyze visual tags, they can still be moved in mob-based movements on the analyze database for the time being. So then from the 1st of January 2027, in New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, the ACT and Tasmania, will all require that all sheep and goats of any age have an EID before they leave any property, any PIC. So this means that there will be no sheep or goats moving with visual tags, and the mob-based analyze transfers will stop. So Western Australia and the Northern Territory are a bit different to this. So if you are in one of those states, do jump on your State Department website just to be sure and check when the dates are for you. So just in a quick summary of those last two slides. So the changes that you'll need to make in alignment with those dates is just to switch to EIDs before your sheep or your goats leave your property. So that includes if you've got to take your animals to the vet, if you're going to show them at an ag show, or even if you move house, you need to make sure that they have an EID so transfers can be completed and movement documentation can all be accurate when they're being moved. And then the other change that you'll need to make is that anything with an EID will now need to be moved as an individual on the analyze database, again, as George just showed us. There are no changes to PIC requirements. So even if you only have one goat, you still need a PIC. That hasn't changed. And there are also currently no changes to NVD requirements when moving animals. All right, a couple of top tips to remember when using EIDs for sheep and goats as we go through this transition period. Again, in alignment with those dates, make sure that they have an analyze EID before they leave your property. If they never leave your property, they do not need an EID. So if you have some favourite pets that will never go anywhere, they don't need an EID, or if you do any at-home slaughters with using a mobile butcher, again, if they don't leave your property, they don't need the EID. Each sheep or goat can only have one EID tag. It is an offence to remove any analyze accredited tag, so when you do need to apply an EID, if they already have a visual analyze tag, leave it in and just add in your EID. The only exception to this is if an analyze EID is damaged and non-reading, the microchip's not working, it can be replaced with a new analyze EID tag. Again, as mentioned before, an EID is species specific, and for sheep and goats, the EID can be put in the left or the right ear. It doesn't matter. And you can also get sheep and goat tags in any of the year of birth colours, same as the visual tags. And the pink post-breeder tags, again, have the same rules applied as with the visual tags. So generally speaking, most sheep and goat owners will not need to purchase an EID reader. Their main readers are mainly needed if you're buying in large numbers of animals or if you're going to be doing some individual animal data recording. If you purchase from sale yards, they do your transfers for you, so you don't need to worry about it. But if you would like to get a reader, they have a big price range and lots of variations from your handheld readers up to your fully integrated handlers. But if you do already have a reader for cattle, that'll work with sheep and goats. Or if you're lucky, you might be able to borrow a reader from a neighbour or an agent if you do need to have it. But in summary, what you need to do with the changes of EID for sheep and goats, PIC rules are all the same. At the different dates, make sure you use your EID tags instead of your visual tags. If you're buying sheep or goats, make sure you record all the EIDs to do your analyzed transfers. And if you're selling, again, just make sure you use your EIDs and you have your NVDs fully completed. For more information for New South Wales, jump on our website. We have heaps of resources on there. The QR code on screen is for our EID newsletter. We send that out about 4 or 5 times a year just with key information about any funding or any dates, any changes, anything there. That's a useful one. Or you can contact us at that email address on screen. We're happy to take any questions at any time. And for all the other states, do jump over to your relevant state ag department and they'll have all the information for you. So thanks, Xander. Back to you to wrap up.
Ash, great to have that perspective from the department point of view. Before we wrap up, I'd just like to share with you one last time these 3 final takeaways from tonight's webinar, which are to make sure you've got a PIC from your state department. It's number 1. Make sure your animals are properly tagged with species-specific NIS-approved devices before they leave your property. And number 3, to make sure you've got an NLIS account, keep your details up to date in it, and complete your animal transfers in the database. I'd just like to take this moment to thank everyone for joining us here tonight, and a big thank you to our presenters, George Basher and Ash Wildridge from New South Wales DPI, for sharing your insights. Once again, a recording of tonight's webinar will be sent out to all registrants and attendees in the coming days, alongside any questions that went unanswered, including the questions that went answered. If you're looking for more information on anything that was covered tonight, there's lots of information on ISC's website. There's a raft of resources available, video guides, articles on everything we've covered tonight, plus loads more. So if you're curious, just jump over and check it out. Other than that, we'll be sharing a survey with you all, and I'd greatly appreciate it if you're able to provide some feedback on how you thought tonight's webinar went, what we did well, what we didn't do so well, what you might like to see next time. It all really helps us inform the way we present these webinars moving forward. So let us know. But apart from that, I think that's us. Thanks everyone. Thanks for joining, and have a nice night.